Oh, what about you? So we have this big Toyota. It's back in again. Did a head in this not too long ago, and it's a nice shiny head in there. So no problems with that. But on the handover, we noticed that he has another leak, and if we look at this, no power steering fluid. So we'll see if we can get you in below here, and we'll have a wee look. Let's see. Oh, get underneath here. Get in there for this. Oh. So, where are we? She's pretty wet with a fluid everywhere, and you can see it's just making a mess. And on the handover, I want to give him it back. I showed him this, so he's brought it back and he wants it done. So, quite rightly so too. If I can get this out of there. So where are we here? That's about as much as I can get you in there. That's the back of the power steering pump. And let me see. So you see we drip there. That's the back of the pump. So the pump is driven from gears off the engine. It's not a belt or nothing like that. It's like a direct drive, and it leaks out the back. There's a wee seal on it. So we're going to take this pump off if I can keep that in shot. So a few things to strip away, and we'll see how it goes. It's back on top, and while we look at this here, there's a few pipes, as you would imagine, to take off. So that one there from the reservoir, we'll just take it off completely, get it out of the way. This bio here, that is onto a banjo, so it loops round. And they're trying to ignore that dopey red breather pipe there that I think the owner put in, and that's for his diff breathers. It's just no rhyme or reason for that at all. Anyway, so down in there, if you can see, that's a banjo where this Yokohama pipe goes onto. That's the high pressure side. This is like the low pressure side. So that's just coming out of the bottom of the reservoir. There's another pipe on it over there, but that's for return, so we don't have to touch that. And we'll just keep, I think we'll just be able to just keep this reservoir in situ. All this is done from underneath, and we'll get this bio here off first of all. Okay, so that's our feed pipe removed there. Easy enough. Just a couple of spring clips from the bottom there and here. So down there, have a wee drip tray below, so you'll lose out whatever's in there. So makes a bit of a mess, but there you go. So our next one is this high pressure pipe. So it's this one I have my finger off, and it curls around and goes onto a banjo. Now the thing about that is it screws into a boss, which there in turn screws into the pump. So if you try to just loosen that with a socket, you know, it'll just loosen the boss. So you need to hold the boss, and you can't do it. It is doable, you know. It's no big deal. So I'll just show you if I can get the camera in here without it going mental. I'll just see if I can show you here. Is that going to show you? Oh. No. Right, I'll need to. I'll get you in here. Okay, gonna be a bit shaky. This is all in the name of getting you in here. So have a look. So I have that spanner jammed against the suspension, upper wishbone bolt there, and that's a 24mm on the boss, and it's a 17 on the top of the banjo there, and that's a better view. So that's the low pressure pipe coming down. It's just a spring clip now, but these can be very tight now, and you need to have this well held, you know. So just using the rest of the parts of the Jeep to help me along with it there, and we'll have a big 1/2 inch extension going onto that. bow there. And with that held, that'll come off dead on. So that's our high pressure off, and that's our banjo fitment, and I've just curled that up and out of the way, and that now reveals the top of our boss there, and then we'll have a nut here which is now pretty easy to access, and there's one directly opposite it, so we get that from below. There is a couple of there's a body engine or strap below, which sort of goes underneath this, and that'll sort of hinder this pump coming out. There's a few other chassis looms maybe in the way, so we'll just have to sort of move them out of the way, and we'll take those two nuts off, and we'll get this thing on the bench. But that's basically it for removal. It's not too bad at all. So here's our power steering pump out, and take it out from the bottom. You might have to jack the car up a wee bit and turn the steering to the right, just to get the steering linkages sort of out of the way, and she comes out the bottom. So where these leak from is this back plate here. So it's held in with a spring, like a big C-clip there, and that's how it's driven off the engine there, and there's a blue seal on there. So you can get like a rebuild kit for these, and I'm not going to completely rebuild this. There's a seal in here, but that wasn't leaking, so I'm just gonna put there's two seals. I think it's two. We'll see in a wee minute in this back bit here, and we'll clean it up first. So first of all, before I do that, this is the kit you can get. It's a genuine Toyota kit there, Toyota Motor Corporation, and I get it from this UK supplier here, Rough Tracks. You can get it from Toyota, and there is a wee schematic in it that shows you, what seal goes where, and you get a bearing in it, and you get a new C-clip, and you get all sorts of wee O-rings and all. So it's these two big main O-rings we'll be interested in. We'll have a wee look at this schematic as well that you get in it. So genuine Toyota kit there. It's dear enough. I think that's about 50 quid that, and we're not going to use the half of it, but yeah, we need to get this leak stopped. So we'll crack on, give this a bit of a clean up, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so here's just going to show you how far I've got here with this. So I held that wee lugger in the vise, and I got a wee pick tool, and I got that underneath one of these wee edges, and run it around, and that's that main ring off. And then I'll give it a wee bit of a just gentle sort of tap there on the back, and this now loosens up, and we can get that back plate off. And with that, there's a wee spring clip. That wee spring clip sits in there, and that there's one wee seal in that wee back plate. So there's a couple of other wee seals in here, as I mentioned, and we'll set that to the side, so make sure your bench is clean for this. So the next bit we need to take out is that bit there. So that just pulls out, and we need to get an wee pick tool and see if we can catch it in here and in here, and see if we can draw it out. Okay, so just see if we can persuade this. There we go. There's just coming now. That's a job. So let's see. There's another seal there. Hopefully it comes up on camera. So that's another seal in there. Okay, doke. Right, so for two plates out here, and we can see they fit together quite nicely. So there's a spring normally goes in there, and they fit nicely together there. So that's the innermost one, and that's the outer plate there. So what I'm going to show you is now this. What I'm doing here is this is not a complete rebuild. This is just to stop the thing from leaking. So in our wee kit, we get this this wee boy here, and it talks about you get a packet with 2 seals in it and a packet with 1 seal in it. Now they're both the same size and all that, but they're made from different materials. Now, from what I can gather anyway from this, is that rear seal there will be number 3, which is the single one, and then that one there will be number 2, which is one of the 2. So the other seal goes away inside it. Now I'm not going to take this thing right down, because you have to press the shaft out and all that sort of stuff. The other thing as well to note is that these all these wee sort of fins in here, they're all sort of worn in, and they're, you can just about see there's a bevel side and there's a square side and all that there. So I'm not going to take it down any further than this, because all we want is this thing to stop leaking. So I'm going to use those 2 seals, which I think is what I said at the start, to do this. But what I can see from that wee drawing there is that they're 2 different seals. They're made from different material, but they look identical. So we'll have a wee look at this kit here. Okay, so we've got a bag with 2 seals in it and a single one. So as per the wee drawing, I'm going to put this single one onto there, and I'm going to put one of the double ones, one in the packet with the 2 in it, onto that one, and we'll put it back together again, and we'll get a new one of those, and that's really all we're going to use, I think. And yeah, so that's it. We'll get those seals on. Right, so we are 2 seals on, or seal on here, and we'll just give that a tap in, make sure the wee pins are aligned there, and we'll just give that a tap down home. I already put that in, that's not the whole thing. I'm just checking it's fully home, because I can't get the pick sort of behind it there. So yeah, I'm pretty happy that's fully home there. Just checking there. So just to show you guys, the seals that come off there, they just basically broke. So that's they're really fine. They're tight. So you sort of have to nearly break it to get it off. And there's the other one. So okay, the sort of special seal at the back is like a silver color, and it's a different sort of color to the other ones. The other ones are black. So this cover plate, remember our wee spring here that just slots in, just sits in there. If I can get it to sit, that's it. And then a good amount of ATF there, or power steering fluid, automatic transmission fluid. We're going to put in this, and that has no orientation, so we just offer that in nice and square, and we're going to have to give that a few taps there to get it into position. Okay, so there we go. We used the new spring clip that was in the kit. We'll have that back plate on, and the new spring clip just clips into position. So what I did there, I held that wee lug in the vise again while it did that, and I just pressed it in with my thumbs, and then tapped it in. Tapped it in with a hammer and a wee bit of a screwdriver just to help it in, and that's her. And just give it a wee check. It spins nicely, so we'll give this face a wee bit of a wipe with a cloth, and I'm happy enough. Put it in at that, guys. But before we do that, we'll have to watch now. We'll have to remember this boss loosened up when we were taking the banjo off. So what I'm going to do, we need to tighten this, but I'll screw that completely out. There's another seal on here. Now this wasn't leaking, but I have to tighten it anyway, so I might as well just take it out. I'll just show you that. We'll just unscrew it here, and there's a wee O-ring on here, and we may as well just change that while we're here. I think there's one of them in the kit. We'll screw that in, we'll tighten it up, then it's ready for the car. Pump back in again, and all the pipes connected up. Good job. Well, so far so good anyway. And we've filled the reservoir there with power steering fluid with a fairly significant overflow, as you can see there, but that's okay. Our wee drip tray still beneath there. There's power steering fluid everywhere underneath, so that there will hardly make much difference. So we're going to start the Jeep. The reason why you can't get much into it now, you might think, oh, they should have took more than that, but it won't actually take much at the minute. So that's basically just filled that can there. So it's got nowhere to go. So we've got probably a big air trap in it now, and so we're just going to start the engine, and we'll see that level. I think that level will just disappear there. So let's see what happens. So that's a lot of air just spurting out there. So we'll give it a wee run for a wee while, and we'll get the front wheels back up in the air, and we'll spin the wheels back and forward, you know. So the steering wheel, and take it for a wee run, and then have a look at the level after that. Right, I've knocked the engine off there. So what's going on with this is you can see the air in it there. Like, can you make that out in the camera there? It's all bubbly. So that fluid is full of air. So what I'm going to do here is you just need to run it and knock it off and let it settle down, and the air will come back into the fluid again. Get you into focus again. The air will come back up into the reservoir. It'll go back up into the reservoir and settle on the top. So this can take a wee while now, and whenever you introduce a big air trap into this type of system, or if you've come across this, if you change a steering rack or anything like that, you'll have buckets of air in this, and all it's doing is really just whisking the fluid up. So if I run this, as you saw in the previous clip, if I run this with the cap off, it's throwing it out, and it's all foamy. So we just have to persevere, and I'm not going to film all that. So I'm going to run the car, let it settle down, turn the steering from side to side just to get it through. But it's going to be a bit creaky. So before I give this back to the customer, I'm going to just have to persevere with this. Sometimes this can take a while to do, and to get all the air out of it, and get the fluid running through nicely. So there we go. I'll have to give the underneath a bit of a wash just to make sure, take it up to the power wash, so just to make sure that the seals have cured that. I'm pretty confident it has. There's a number of these I've done. The wee seal kit it's expensive for all you use out of it. It's not a full rebuild by any means. If you need to do a full rebuild, then that's a different matter entirely. This is just purely for curing that leak, and because the thing's fully oiled, and because it's run off the engine, and the engine oil is in the front pinion, it's fairly it gets pretty well lubricated, these power steering pumps. So the only trouble is that I've ever seen with them is the leak out the back, that back plate there, and those wee seals that I showed you there cure that, and away you go again for another couple of 100,000 K. So anyway, I'll persevere with this, get this air out of this. It's just gonna take a wee while, So that's us for this video. So I hope you got something out of it, and many thanks for watching as ever, and all the best, and bye bye.